Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be comparing AR-47 to AK-47. Okay, so we're here, we have a Davidson Defense upper, okay, and over here we got a Romanian AK-47. Both of these guns are budget when I got them, okay, so basically this AR-47, you know, the upper and the lower, basically it's a $500 gun, and this Romanian AK-47 when I got it was also a $500 gun. Okay, so I don't care what, you know, forget about what they go for now. This is what they were selling for when I got them. That's probably the correct price. If you know, if it wasn't for import restrictions, that's what you would probably be getting these for now too. Okay, so as far as the history of these guns, this AK has about 10,000 rounds on it. I have broken the recoil spring on this, and I also broke the muzzle slant on it. I don't know how it broke, but it cracked, and I replaced it. So don't think that AK-47s are not indestructible. You know, I'm pretty good at breaking things, okay, especially with high round counts. On the AR-47, now this, I think the round count on this is somewhere around 400 to 500 rounds on this, okay? So on this, this has a Bear Creek, this came with a Bear Creek Arsenal firing pin, and that broke, okay? The first one broke at 250 rounds, the second one broke at about 10 rounds. And I've replaced it with a Black Rifle Arms firing pin, which has been doing really good. Okay, so I just want to give you guys the background on these two guns. Now, on the AK-47, I do have a number of AKs. I have another one that's also Romanian, and that also has about 10,000 rounds on it. On that one, I haven't broken anything. Okay, this is well, actually, on AR-47, I've got two of them. I got the 16-inch that I'm holding here. And I also have a 7.5-inch. Both of them have very low round counts. Okay, so both of them have like under 500 rounds. Okay, so I just want to give you guys that background as far as what I'm coming into this. You know, what experience I'm bringing into this. Okay, so let's put these down. So there's a few things I want to go over with you guys today. I made this list. It's sort of like in order of priority for me, but you know, not necessarily. So first thing we're going to talk about is accuracy, then recoil, then we're going to talk about optics, magazines, okay, flexibility, fixability, durability, and price. Okay, so I kind of already talked about price a little bit. So first, let's talk about accuracy. Okay, so on the AK-47, okay. The best group that I ever got on this, right? And again, I've had this for about 15 years. The best group was at 200 yards. I got 3 3/4 inches, okay? So that's just inside of 2 MOA. I only got that once, okay? On average, I get about 4 MOA with this, okay? That's what I get on average with the, let me show you guys over here. So, up here at the top, I shot this AK-47 earlier. I did it a bunch of times. I got basically 4 away a bunch of times. And what I'll do is I'll even take the best 4 out of 5. Okay, so the best 4 out of 5, 2, 3, 4. That's these shots here. That was actually 4.5 inches at 100 yards. Now with the AR-47, okay. This guy right here, okay, I've shot this a bunch of times, okay, and a bunch of times where I have gotten 1 MOA at 100 yards, and just yesterday I got another group at 200 yards. This is 200 yards. These 5 shots here. So all 5 shots came in at 200 yards. They came in at if I take it 2 1/4 inches. If I take the best 4 out of 5. The best 4 out of 5 was 2 inches at 200 yards. So that works out to a 1 MOA. Okay. So and I've done a bunch of videos where I've got 1 MOA with the AR-47. And in case you guys are interested, basically I did a video on this. Basically, I'm using essentially a 30-yard zero. So at 20 yards, I'm negative 2 inches. 30 yards 0. At 50 yards, I'm plus 2 inches. 100 yards, plus 4 inches. At 150 yards, I'm plus 5 inches. And at 200 yards, I'm plus 4 inches. Okay, so I use the 30-yard zero because I can basically get all the way to 300 yards. You know, and basically it's going to be like maybe like if I aim at the face, I'll still get chest shots. Okay, so that's why I use that 30-yard zero with the AK-47, or specifically with the 7.62 by 3.9. Okay, because I told you guys that I had shot a 1MOA group yesterday. I was using a 3x magnifier. Okay. Today, when I shot it, what I wanted to do is I wanted to keep all things equal, and what I did is I shot this AR-47 without the magnifier, right? So I just shot it with the red dot. So when I shot it with the red dot, okay. So when I shot it with just both guns with just the red dot at 100 yards, the AK-47 got 4.5 MOA, best 4 out of 5, right? Best 4 out of 5. These 4 shots here, 4.5 inches, 4.5 MOA at 100 yards. And then when I shot the AR-47, same ammunition, that Wolf Performance, that got 2.5 MOA at 100 yards. Okay, so that's without the magnifier, just with the red dot. So I did that because I wanted to kind of eliminate the fact that, hey, I can easily put a magnifier on the AR-47, but I can't do it on the AK-47. So obviously the ammunition's not an issue. It's not the issue there because we're using the same ammunition, and I don't even think the barrel's the issue. I think a big part of the issue is my interaction with the gun. You know, it's just an easier gun to shoot, and also I suspect that piston that's in there that's vibrating after the gun goes bang, that's probably causing the groups to open up a little bit, right? Because it's just an inconsistency. Okay? So as far as accuracy, right? There's no doubt that the AR-47 is more accurate. Now, the question becomes why? Why is it more accurate? There's a whole bunch of things. One of which is the second, rather the third item on this list, and that's the optics. Okay, on this AR-47, I'm able to mount a magnifier. Okay, or I can put an LPVO on here, and it's directly connected to the upper receiver, which is directly connected to the barrel. So the flexibility that I have with optics is one of the things, right? One of the few things that allows me to be more accurate with the gun. With the AK, on the AK, the best way to mount the optics that I have found is over the gas tube. Okay. Now there is a side rail mount over here. When I tried using the side mount and optics on top of that, basically the groups were opening up 6 to 8 inches. Okay, and the reason for that is because these mounts, they move. If you push down on them, they move. Okay, the AK-47 shoots, the entire receiver flexes. So there's this wave action that happens. So because this wave is coming through the mounting point, I mean it's not going to hold zero for very long. Okay. So between that and again being able to push down on it, and also when you're using the side mount, basically you have to put your jaw on the gun, right? Because you can't get low as the way I am now. You gotta come higher up on the gun. So again, so now your body's not in the optimal position. So this is the best way this is the way I have gotten the best accuracy with the AK-47. Problem with this is I cannot put a magnifier behind it. I've tried. It just doesn't work. It's really hard to get the two to line up right. Okay, so that's one of the issues. That's one of the reasons why I've had some difficulty with getting the AK-47 to match the accuracy of the AR-47. Now, other issue that's going on here is there's more things attached to the barrel, primarily the piston, right? So you got this piston over here that's moving back and forth. There's a long stroke gas system, so the piston is connected to the bolt carrier. So what happens with the piston, if you watch an AK shoot in slow motion, after the gun fires, that piston it's vibrating a little bit, right? It's got a little bit of a movement, you know, and what's happening is that movement can interfere, and most likely does, with the barrel harmonics. Okay, so as that piston is moving, or maybe it's sitting in a slightly different spot, that's going to throw off your barrel harmonics. So that's a reason why the piston gun is generally not going to be as accurate as the direct impingement gun. Okay, now there's things that you can do to try to minimize this, right? They've put a lot of efforts into a lot of these, the SIG MCX, right, and H&K 556. They've put a lot of efforts to try to minimize that piston vibration. You know what? If you put enough, like you got to put a ton of effort into it to try and minimize it, right? And again, the best that you're ever gonna get to is that it might be as accurate as a direct impingement gun. Okay, so that's the best you're gonna get. You're not gonna get more accurate. Okay, but the barrel itself, I suspect that the barrel isn't what's making a difference here, right? So I don't think it's an issue of the AR-47 has a better barrel. In fact, I would say this is a budget gun, right? This upper was like $224, so it probably has it doesn't have like a cold hammer forged barrel or anything fancy. It still gets one of them away. So I don't think it's the barrel. I think it's the other things around the barrel, like in this case, the piston that's connected to it that is going to have a little bit of movement, a little bit of vibration, a little bit of inconsistency, and also the issue of the optics. And basically my ability to interact with the gun. Okay, that's what I think is making a big deal here. Just my ability to interact with the gun by putting the this red dot over the gas tube. That allows me to get low on the gun and use the type of hold that I normally have, like with an AR-15. Now, as far as getting this optic on the gun, the way it works is this is a Midwest Industries rail. So the lower part, there's two parts of the rail here, the upper part and the lower part. The lower part clamps onto the barrel, and then the upper rail clamps onto or screws into the lower rail, and then the optic screws into the upper rail. So you've got pieces connected to pieces, right? And one of the issues one of the issues I ran into this, because at some point this thing went from shooting like an average of like 4 MOA, like all of a sudden like my groups opened up to like something like 8 MOA. And what had happened is that some of the screws, basically the lower rail, which clamps onto the barrel, those screws had loosened up. Okay, and the issue was like I couldn't tell, I couldn't like feel it, I couldn't see it. It's not because if the optic gets loose, I can go like you might notice it, but because the screws had loosened up internally, I couldn't see it, I couldn't feel anything. I really didn't realize that there was an issue until just my group started really opening up. Okay, so that's also an issue with this design over here. With the AR design, right? There's just less pieces going on here, right? Basically, the optic goes onto the upper receiver, and that's it. If this gets loose, or periodically, all I gotta do is just check this. I'll put a star key in there and just torque it and make sure that it hasn't loosened up. So that's really easy to check, right? It's the only thing I gotta worry about. So this is, so this is an easy thing to see, right? So that's on the accuracy side, right? So now I want to talk about the recoil. Okay, so now the recoil is important for a number of reasons. A lot of times people will talk about the recoil as in their, it affects their ability to do follow-up shots. Okay. But there's actually more to it than just that, right? Yes, it does affect your ability to do follow-up shots, but it also affects and influences your desire to shoot the gun a lot, okay? So if you've got a gun that is beating you up, okay, whether you want to admit it to yourself or not, you're going to gravitate to a gun that has less recoil, okay? It's just less, it's more fun, it's less, it's less work, okay? So that's the reality of it. So if you have a lower recoiling gun, you're going to want to shoot it more, okay? So with the AK-47, right, it tends to be a highly overgassed gun, okay? Now, in addition to that, you've got the extra mass of that piston that's reciprocating, right? You got more reciprocating mass, which is also now more, basically that mass is going to come back. It's going to get to the end here, jolt the gun one way, then it goes forward, right? The recoil spring pushes it forward, it jolts the other way, and it's just more weight moving back and forth. But I think it's really more of an issue of overgassing, right? Because the AK has these vent holes over here, right? And then they overgas it, and then the extra gas comes out through the front over here. And I've done a lot of videos on the SIG MCX, which is also a piston gun, and that one actually has very little felt recoil. So I think that it's less of an issue of the reciprocating mass, even though this has a larger piston than the SIG MCX. And I think it's just more of an issue of like severe overgassing. That I mean, that was just a mindset when they were building these guns. Okay, like they weren't building them to be one MOA guns. That they were building them to be war guns that they could give to like basically conscripts. Okay, so you're gonna run into that issue. Let me fire the gun. Right, my ears on. I'm gonna fire the gun in that direction, and you guys can get a sense of how the muzzle moves. Okay, I'll fire the AR-47 first. Make it a little bit brighter. I turned down the brightness because I was shooting for accuracy earlier. Okay, so I'll fire it this way. You guys can check out the muzzle. Okay, now we'll do the AK-47. So this magazine rocks in. We'll talk about the magazine next. Okay. So when I'm shooting standing like this, okay, I mean I can feel that the AK-47 has more recoil, okay, and I'm shooting the same ammunition. Okay, I'm shooting. Where are you? Wolf Performance, which is what I use to shoot those groups over there, right? So when I'm standing and I'm shooting, I can feel that the AK has more felt recoil. However, it's not that bad. You really start to feel it when you're shooting either prone or benched, and you're going for those like really tight groups. And the reason is because basically you're pressing harder into the gun, and that's when you really start feeling the jolt come up into your face, right? Because you're using your face to try and stabilize the gun. Okay, and you could just feel it, right? Like the vibration, comes up into your body. The AK-47, right, shooting 7.62 by 3.9. The felt recoil is really a lot is close to my AR-10. Okay, now the AR-10, of course, is a lot more powerful. It's a much more powerful round, and I shoot pretty hot stuff, right? But the difference is that my AR-10, it's got an adjustable gas valve, and I'm able to like basically lower the gas to the least amount that I need to cycle the gun, and that's why I'm able to like really tune down the AR-10, and I got a heavier buffer weight in there. I have a stronger recoil spring, and that's why I can tell you guys that the recoil of this AK-47 is a lot closer to my AR-10 versus my 5.56 AR-15. Okay. All right. So we talked about accuracy. We talked about recoil. I talked about optics a bunch of times. Just the fact that I can put optics easily on the AR-47. Okay. Is a humongous advantage, right? Next, let's talk about magazines. So this is one of the areas where, like, the AK-47 magazine definitely has an advantage as far as durability, right? I mean, I definitely trust this magazine a whole lot more than this magazine here, right? This ASC. And I've already, like, I bought a few of them. I already had an issue with one of them. I had to go back and I had to get replaced. Now, if you notice, like with that, they're both shooting the same ammunition, the 7.62 by 3.9, which is a very tapered round. Okay, well, here you can see the case here, right? You can see how this case is tapered, right? Right. So what that means is that as you stack the rounds, they start to take a curve. Okay. So because they start to take a curve, that's why the AK-47 magazine, like, it immediately starts taking a curve here, right, to accommodate those tapered rounds. Well, the issue with the AR-47 magazine is that this magazine welt here is straight, okay? So what that means is the magazine up here has to be straight, and that creates a conflict, because those rounds, when they go in the magazine, right, even those first 5 or 6 rounds, right, they start tapering in there, right, because that has to go in, it has to go straight into the magazine welt. So that's one of the conflicts that you're going to have with the design of this. And what they've done is, it's an anti-tilt follower, but it does have like a little bit of a give, right? So that little bit of a give here, that allows it to flex a little bit in this section over here, and then when it gets down here, it takes a drastic curve to make up for it. Now, as far as working with the magazine, because this is so curved, a lot of times, like I always like, it will go in easy if you line it up right, and it'll come out easy. But if you're used to working with AR-15 magazines, like, I almost like always misalign it when I go to put it in there, and like I'm kind of like fishing to get it in there. Now, that's not a problem with the gun or the magazine. That's a me problem. But it's there. It's real, and you're gonna experience that. Okay, with the AK. Even though this is and these Palm magazines are excellent. I mean, in 2020, I did a lot of work with these. These are the best AK magazines that I have found. And I've got the metal ones. I got Romanian ones. I got all these com block ones. These are really the best. I like them because, first of all, you can see what's in there, right? I wish I could get clear magazines from my AR-47. The issue with these is, like, even though these are like super reliable magazines, okay, these got a rock and lock, okay? So even though I have done this a zillion times, right? Especially, forget about, like, right now it's an empty magazine. If you've got this filled up, it gets a little bit harder. And if you try to do this there you go, got it wrong. Okay, if you do this in the dark, this is like really hard, okay? Okay, so if you try to do this with a full magazine in the dark, where you're trying to line this up, that becomes a really big pain in the ass, right? It's like really hard. You could be sitting there fumbling, and then sometimes what will happen is, if you get this, you can get this like misaligned in such a way that you have that, like, now you got in, like, right there, right in this position. Now it can be a pain in the ass to get this sucker out of there. Okay, so one of the things I have found with the AKs, even though these are way more reliable magazines, okay, the fact that these magazines here, maybe they're less reliable, but because they drop free, right, and even in the dark, right, because of this funky curve, it might take me a little bit longer, but I will get it in there, and it ultimately ends up being easier to work with. Okay, so the 2 magazines, I mean, I've done all of my magazines are ASC. Durmag is another name that's out there that people have said lots of good stuff about. I mean, either of these magazines, if you drop these on their feed lips and the feed lips take a bend, you're going to have problems, okay? And the problem is, if you add a big bend that you can see, that's great, because now you know you got a bad magazine. Problem is when you have a really slight bend that you can't see, and now you start having these occasional feeding problems. That's when this becomes a problem. The nice thing about the polymer magazines, okay, is that these things are either broken or not broken, right? If they're broken, you can see it. It's broken, right? You just throw it in the garbage. It's no good. So you're never going to have an issue where they got like just a slight bend or something like that. So that's one of the things I like about the polymer magazines. I wish they would make AR-47 magazines, of this quality. Okay. So something for you guys to be aware of. Like I said, there's always a trade-off, cost-benefit. As far as working with the magazines, overall, it's easier to work with AR-47 magazines, especially if you're doing this in the evening. At night, I've done plenty of videos where I'm doing night shooting or low light shooting. Big advantage to be able to just go straight in, come straight out. Okay. Next. Okay, flexibility. Okay. So, AK-47 here. Let me shove this magazine in there just so that it looks like an AK-47. Okay? So as far as flexibility, okay, I got this entire section here that you really can't mount anything on, okay, because the dust cover is removable. This section here with the rear sight is a wasted area because this is an area that could have been Picatinny rail, and this is a very stable area. This would have been a great place to have the optic, but because that's not an option, I'm forced to use this option here where I've got this really short. I mean, what is it, either 6 inches or 6 to 8 inches of space here that has to hold my red dot, the sling, right, the light, which is going to go here, right, and my hand. Okay, so everything is cramped into this really short area. And as far as the light goes, the only light I can really put here is a pistol light with a butterfly switch that I'll work like that. And the reason for that is because if I try to mount a rifle light, which is going to be longer, it's going to extend back into the area where my hand is, so that's no good. Okay, and if I do that, like let's say because I could clamp something on the barrel over here, right? I actually have a clamp over here where I can mount the light here. The issue with that is, okay, now I got more shit attached to the barrel that might interfere with the harmonics. But let's say, like, if I was going to be shooting this gun at night a lot, okay, because right now I put the pistol light here because I don't shoot it at night a lot. But if I was going to shoot this at night a lot, I would definitely clamp onto the barrel here, okay, because, I don't need to be hitting, like, it's not, especially for night shooting, I don't need a super accurate gun, right? Because you're going to be shooting probably inside of 50 yards. So I would clamp the light onto the barrel over here, right? And basically run the pressure pad. I guess I'd have to put it here, okay? Because where else are you going to put it? Like, I can't put it on the top, so that's where the pressure pad would kind of have to go. So your hand is just going to have to rest on the pressure pad. On an AR, basically, you don't have to rest your hand on the pressure pad. Because you just got so much real estate here, right? So that's one of the benefits now of the AR-15. I've got all this real estate here to add stuff, okay? So without a doubt, it's obvious, it's a no-brainer. The AR-47 is going to be a lot more flexible, right? You got a lot more real estate. The main thing I wanted to point out to you guys is, like, the issues with the AR-47 and how you would have to kind of set this up, right? Because sling's got to go there, hands got to go here, red dot's got to go there. Light is either going to go here if it's a butterfly switch, which really sucks because I always have these like, I'm always blind. Like, even if I'm holding this away from my face, you hit that butterfly switch, you're going to see spots, right? You're going to lose your night vision. It really sucks. So best thing to do is put the light up here, just clamp it onto the barrel, run the pressure pad back here, and basically activate the light from here. Okay, that's the best option. I don't have any better solution. Okay, so flexibility, 100% AR-47. Fixability. All right, let's talk about fixability. Guns are machines. All machines break. Okay, so when you're AR anything, right, whether it's an AR-47, AR-15, AR-9, whatever you got, when it breaks, you can easily get parts for it, okay? There's just tons of stuff out there. People have stuff stockpiled. You break a firing pin, easy to break, okay? On the AK-47, yeah, it's true that things break less often, but eventually they'll break, okay? And it's a lot harder to get parts. If your firing pin breaks for the AK-47, right? And like I said, this one's up to like 10,000 so rounds. Hasn't broken, but if it does break, I think there's like at least 3 different styles of firing pin out there because AK-47s, they're not all the same, right? There's different countries, Romanians, the Serbians, the Russians, the Chinese. They've all got slightly different variations. Okay, so you may find yourself like just ordering a whole bunch of parts and just seeing what's going to fit. Okay, now if the bolt breaks on an AK-47, you have to headspace it, right? And the way you do it is you have to move the barrel back and forth. So if your bolt goes bad on an AK-47, it's not like an AR-15 where you just order another bolt online, throw it in there, and just start shooting the gun. With the AK-47, it's more likely than not that it may not headspace correctly. Okay, you may get some issues of overpressure if you don't, if you don't go through trouble of head spacing it and moving the barrel back and forth to headspace it. I mean, you're talking about grinding out rivets here, right? So there's, there's work involved, right? It's not an easy thing. It's not like the AR style where basically you just, you got a barrel nut that just screws onto the upper receiver, right? Go back there. So with this one over here, right, you take off your rail, you got a barrel nut there that just rotates on it. You just use a wrench, barrel wrench, get it on, easy stuff. Okay, so you're gonna run into that issue. Okay, let's see next. Right, durability. Like I said, with the AK, everything breaks. I've broken the recoil spring on this. I've broken the slant over here. You shoot enough, you're gonna break stuff a lot harder to replace parts. Okay? And finally, price. Okay, so when I got my AK, it was $500. That AR over there, $500. I think both guns are a good value for $500. Okay, now remaining AKs, I'm hearing that these things are going for like $2,000 to $3,000 today. Insane. Don't buy it. I wouldn't buy it. I mean, I wouldn't sell it, okay, but I wouldn't buy it either, okay. So for me, it's like, okay, this is kind of like an antique now, okay. So it's kind of like a collector's item. I enjoy shooting it every once in a while, but yeah, I definitely not going to recommend to anybody that you spend $2,000 to $3,000 on any gun, okay. There's always going to be better, cheaper guns out there that really do the job just as well, okay. So yeah, if I was gonna get an AK-47 now, I think I'd probably go over to Palmetto. Now I'm gonna say this. I mean, I've had great luck with Palmetto ARs, right? Both AR-15s, AR-9s, AR-10s. I've had great luck with Palmettos. I have not had experience with any Palmetto guns besides ARs. So a lot of people have said some good things about Palmetto AKs. Okay, I don't have an experience with them. Some of the other lines that they have, people have had some complaints with it. So you really got to look into and like do your research, right? But don't just assume that the great track record of AR-15s, applies to AKs and all the other things that they sell. Okay. But I think they've been selling AKs now for many years, so I think they've gotten pretty good at it. They probably have worked out all the bugs. So yeah, but don't just assume that their experience, their reputation with one gun automatically carries over to some other line. They pretty much have to go through the experience and growing pains in order to perfect any new line that they put out there, and that's pretty much with anybody. Okay, so a few things for you guys to think about. I just want to share my experience with you guys. With both the AK-47 and the AR-47. I like both guns. Okay, on any given day, I'm definitely more likely to pull out the AR-47. Right, probably 10 times more likely to pull out the AR-47 versus the AK-47. I get better accuracy with it. The recoil is less. It's more enjoyable to shoot. So yeah. On any given day, I'm gonna pull out the AR-47. No question about that. Some comments. Let me know what you guys think. Give the video a like. It helps spread out the information. And I'll talk to y'all soon. Hey everyone, it's also worth mentioning that one of the benefits of the AR-47 is just being able to swap in different lowers. Okay, so different lowers that might have like either different stocks or particularly different triggers, binary triggers, match grade triggers, mil-spec triggers, FRT triggers, whatever. So that's really easy to do with an AR-47. That just quickly swap in different lowers. That's not something you can do with an AK-47.